Kara Dennison, and I'm doing a panel on Doctor Who Sightseeing in England and Wales because they don't come over here much. It's happening more, but they don't come over here much. So just to give you an idea of who I am, in addition to working with Anime Mid-Atlantic since very close to the beginning, I am also one of the co-founders of Regeneration Who in Baltimore. I am one of their presenters, one of their interviewers. I work with the guests a lot, and I also work with the attendees a lot, just to sort of...
David Tennant.
when we get enough attendees to afford him.
Yeah, he's only the most popular doctor ever.
If you want to see David Tennant, come to the con, and then we will see that there is a demand for him, and we'll try to get him. But he's a spendy one.
I figured all the new doctors probably were like...
We would love to have absolutely everyone at the con, but money is a thing. We're all...
And the current doctor, I don't think...
he's working.
So
we ask him every year, and he's working.
It ain't even happening.
We ask him every year because the con chair plays electric guitar, I play bass, and we want to jam with him. So, and yeah, but we ask him every year, and sadly that's the way of things. But yep, and as part of my work for Regeneration Who, which is convincing writer and actor guests to come hang out with us, I travel a lot overseas. And while I'm over there, I'm a big geek. Because, well, I'm a Doctor Who fan, that's why I helped found a Doctor Who con. And so one of the things I like to do is I like to go on trips to the filming locations. Were any of you at Yun Mao's panel yesterday about anime cosplay in Japan? She talked a little bit about going on pilgrimages to places where anime settings are based on, and it's sort of the same thing. I like to go to filming things. And the great thing about Doctor Who now, as opposed to Doctor Who in, say, the 70s or 80s, is that it's much more of a sort of a national pride thing. It's not just, this is our show. It's tourists come to see us, and that's especially true in Wales. If you get on a bus in Cardiff and you say, I'm a Doctor Who fan...
Why is everything in Cardiff?
Because that's where Russell T Davies was, and it's... actually, that is a good question. It's partly because Cardiff was not doing well, financially, tourism-wise. And so it was not only because Russell T Davies is Welsh, but also because it was a boost to tourism. And it has been a massive boost to tourism because a lot of people come there just to see the filming locations while they're filming. Sometimes you'll have people hanging out. So what I'm going to cover first is I'm going to start in London and work outward. And while I talk about this, I'm also going to talk about actual travel overseas should you or your family members ever try it. Because it's not as hard as you think, because people who can't even speak English make their way through London like it ain't no thing. They make it like that on purpose. So even someone with as poor a sense of direction as me can get from London to Wales without getting too terribly lost.
I don't know, challenge me.
That's what I said.
Probably be lost.
That's what I said when I went, and my friend who I was staying with dropped me for a day to go do some research, and I made it to the Tower of London and back with no problem and got a sandwich along the way. So, okay, so first thing, how many of you, of the small group we have here, how many of you have seen on Google Maps the TARDIS in London that when you click on it, you can go inside it? Have you seen that? It's if you look at Earl's Court Tube Station in London, you'll see a TARDIS outside. And when you click on it on Google Maps, it has a little 360 of the 11th Doctor's TARDIS interior. It's a very cute little thing. Earl's Court Tube Station in London. And it's right next to a bus shelter. That police box actually is there. It's if you get off, it's part of the London transport line, and get out on the Earl's Court Street exit, because the Earl's Court station has like 2 exits, and you go out there and it's there. You can't go inside. It's the doors are jammed, so you can't do anything with them, but it's a popular photo spot, and if you click on it on Google Maps, it's a little fun Easter egg. So that's kind of level 1 sightseeing there, because I had a friend who sort of said, you haven't seen the Earl's Court TARDIS yet, and just drags me out of the station, and photos there. Now, when it comes to filming locations, while a lot of stuff is done in Cardiff, In the old series, they would do stuff in London, and even now on the new series, they will go to London for some things. One of the recent ones is St. Paul's Cathedral. And if you've seen Mary Poppins, you've heard of St. Paul's. That is at the St. Paul's Tube Stop, shockingly enough. And it was featured most recently in the 2-part finale Dark Water and Death in Heaven, where you saw the Cybermen marching down and you saw the big domed building behind them. That episode was a tribute to a second Doctor episode called Invasion, where the same scene happened. The Cybermen marching down the steps of St. Paul's. So it has been used as a filming location once in classic series, once in new series, to do the exact same thing. To mill around the outside is, you can just do that. If you want a tour of the inside of St. Paul's, because churches are pretty, tour tickets are about £15, and you can go to their website, which you can look up online, and you can get tour tickets before you go, and they'll have little schedules. But if you're just interested in seeing the outside, no big deal. I can tell this is an old panel because the one I have up next is no longer around, but I want to tell people about it anyway. So, in Snugbury's Field, which is up north, I love that name, Snugbury. It sounds like some kind of weird old teddy bear or something. Snugbury is an ice cream company in England. And every summer, they have this big field that's visible from the A51, which is one of the highways. And they build a big straw and metal sculpture out there that has something to do with something going on that year. And they will sell ice creams themed to the sculpture for charity, for some relevant charity. Now, a few years ago, and it stayed up for longer than usual, they did a big straw Dalek. The Snugbury Dalek. And you could see it from the highway. Like, you could see this big old thing just sitting up there. It was pretty amazing. And they sold little Dalek ice cream pops that year for charity. And I think it was for a cancer charity. I can't remember what it was that year. But you could actually go out to this field, and you could go, and it was pretty big. It towered. It was also motion activated.
Oh, wow.
My friends didn't tell me that. So I walked past, and it started moving and yelling. It started spinning its head around and waving its little plunger arms and yelling in Nicholas Briggs' voice and going, "Exterminate!" And I jumped because I've seen enough Doctor Who to know that when I hear a Dalek in the wild, you run. Sadly, the Snugbury Dalek is no longer around because they have started changing it out again. They left it up for the 50th anniversary. But if you go online, you can see photos and videos of it, and you can see just how big it was, and some videos and pics of it in motion. So, unfortunately, that's not one you can visit anymore, but it is one that you can see sort of online. Going back to ones you can see now, this is going back to Third Doctor era. The episode The Time Warrior, which was the first episode to feature the Sontarans.
Oh, wow.
And back when they looked like a really lumpy potato back then because, effects budget. There is a castle, technically it's a hotel, called Peckforton Castle. Now, this was originally built, it was a millionaire's family home in the Victorian age. And after he died, it was turned into a hotel, and now it is a very high-end wedding venue. So you can rent this out for weddings and stuff. One night stay is going to cost you about $250. So you got to really want to go. Now, you can wander the grounds. You can go in and you can wander the grounds and look around. They have all sorts of raptor birds, like, hunting birds. They also have a peacock that will chase you. Be careful. And a lot of the stuff I'm telling you is stuff I learned firsthand. Don't say hi to the peacock. It will just come right through the gate. And I always like to imagine that someone came to one of these panels when I did them, and I said, "Be careful of the peacock," and next year they go and they're like, "There's that peacock she talked about." I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but it's kind of like when my friends gave me a place to go in Rickmansworth, and they said the geese are mean, be careful. And I was like, haha, oh, there they are. But yeah, in Time Warrior, it was a medieval castle called Wessex Castle, and it was where the Sontarans landed on Earth for the first time. And when it's open, it'll say when it's open to the public, the grounds are free to walk around, take photos, pretend you're the third Doctor, and do Venusian Aikido on guards and stuff. You have to supply your own guards, obviously. Also of interest, just from a geek standpoint, in the 80s, after its use in Doctor Who, it was the source, it was the site of the world's first major staged LARP. So they used it as this sort of dungeon crawl type thing back in, I think, 81, 82.
So cool.
And I think the group that ran it still exists, and they go other places, but Peckforton Castle was where they first sort of ran this massive live action. I don't know if it was a D&D game. I think it was at least modeled on one, but you know. And they have a website, peckfortoncastle.co.uk. Just search for it, and there it is. And it's a lovely place up towards, north of England. Also in the north of England, if you are familiar with the Sixth Doctor's run and Trial of a Time Lord, which was his last story, very long, and then they just sort of regenerated him without him there. In the story The Ultimate Foe, the last part of Trial of a Time Lord, there was a place that the Sixth Doctor went called the Fantasy Factory, with all these weird machines and gears and crazy things. That's an actual place in Stoke-on-Trent called the Gladstone Pottery Museum. And what you're seeing is a reproduction old-fashioned pottery museum. That's you have to pay admission to go in, very small charge, to go and look around inside. And then when you go outside, you can see all the old smokestacks and chimneys and the buildings with the big gears and stuff, and you can just go right into those and tour around. They also have old-fashioned office buildings set up that you can tour through. They're sort of left as they would have been. So it's a little bit like a very small colonial Williamsburg type thing, where it's sort of immersive history. In one of the buildings, if you go upstairs, there is a toilet exhibit called Flushed with Pride. I'm not kidding.
That's a very interesting name.
Apparently Manchester is very proud of their toilet production. I opened the door and I kind of looked in. I saw toilets as far as the eye could see and just closed the door. But yeah, Gladstone Pottery Museum, even if you're not familiar with Classic Who, it is, if you like historical stuff, it is a lovely place to visit. They also have a nice little cafe upstairs. If you're going on a big sightseeing thing all day like I do and you suddenly realize you're hungry, you can go up and get a sandwich and some chips, by which I mean our kind of chips, not their kind of chips. Like crisps. What you got
Google
there?
has a picture of the toilets.
Oh, she found it. She found Flushed with Pride. Next place, and we're still in sort of mostly classic Who stuff now. This was I'm going to tell you the name after I describe it because the name is priceless. This is a series of caves in Somerset, and it was used in a classic Who story called Revenge of the Cybermen, and it was also used in End of Time, when the 10th Doctor goes and visits the Ood in the caves. So this was also used in a classic Who episode. The caves, the series of caves, are called Wookiee Hole. Wookey Hole. That's the real name. You can go and you can tour it. It's a popular place for school groups for like natural, sciencey type things. It also it's also cursed, apparently. There is a legend about something called the Witch of Wookiee Hole, which is not a person. It is a stalagmite that if you look at it from a certain angle, it seems to have sort of a pointy hat and a little witch face outline. And the thing is, you do not mock the Witch of Wookiee Hole. It's an old tradition. Now, when they were filming Revenge of the Cybermen, they had Liz Sladen out there, who of course was Sarah Jane Smith. and the crew was out there, and they had heard the story, and they were like, ha ha ha, and they brought a little witch hat and a cape. And they put the hat and the cape on the witch. Liz Sladen almost drowned in the pools down there, and one of the crew members broke a leg. So whether it was happenstance or whether it was the curse, nobody knows, but the hat and the cape came off very quickly. So if you should visit Wookiee Hole, be nice, because, I don't know about you guys, but I don't chance that stuff. When I hear Liz Sladen almost drowned. So that is primarily the classic Who stuff, and that was largely in and around London and the north of England. As an aside, not related to Doctor Who, and this is not my presentation, but I like telling people about it. Is anyone familiar with the BBC Chronicles of Narnia?
Yes.
The ones that ran on PBS back in the 80s or so, and Tom Baker had a role in one of them. Well, they're hard to get your hands on now, but it was very BBC budget. They got through about 4 books of it. If you go to a place called Peake's Cavern, this is the only place in the world where a gem called Blue John can be mined. So a lot of the shops in town have Blue John. Scenes from The Silver Chair were also filmed there, with Tom Baker crawling down into this really narrow cave and sort of, clambering up. A lot of BBC stuff is filmed there because it's this very eerie, natural cave, very creepy looking. And when we were going through, the tour guide goes up to this boulder and he talks about, the BBC used to film a lot here, and he just hoists the boulder in one hand. Because the BBC, a while back, left a foam, realistic-looking boulder. And so the tour guides left it there because they just want to be able to do this. So that is not a Doctor Who setting as far as we know. They may have slid down there to do stuff, but Tom Baker did film down there for the Chronicles of Narnia, and it's a cool place to visit, and the town is just lovely. Sadly, I can't remember the name of the town, but if you look up Peake's Cavern, you will find it.